Okay, so as we were saying, the first aid kit should be set up for what it is that you're likely to encounter. Now, for us, that could be a first-person shooter scenario, right? Because there are people walking around blasting each other for no reason in our current environment. So this is sort of the one that is my initial go-to, and this is specifically trauma, meaning something that can kill you. This isn't my Band-Aid, this isn't my blister kit. I have that stuff. This isn't it. These are all life-saving items that without them, it is unlikely that the person would survive. So don't mind all the guns there in the background. I was just cleaning some stuff and taking care of some administrative stuff. Move that out of the way. So, first and foremost, on the outside of every first aid kit, and on the outside, not on the inside, not in a plastic bag, not inside of a rubber band, not anywhere except my dog chewing on the end of my unloaded gun. On the outside are tourniquets, and you need to understand how to use one. And these are set up for there. Boom, that's it. And as you open it, it actually deploys itself. And so you can put that on, pull this tab down quickly, and you can be deploying it just like that. Done. So on the outside, you want a properly configured tourniquet, and you want them in such a fashion that they can come off and be deployed rapidly. Number one. Number two, you need some sort of trauma shears because you got to cut stuff in bad situations. It's just how it works. And going on the inside here, this has a bunch of relatively serious stuff. This is a chest seal for a sucking chest wound. If you get shot through the lung, your lung will start to compress as air fills that void. And without one of these, eventually the lung will just collapse and you will die. And I carry two because very often wounds are through and through, and so you have a front wound and a back wound, and you want to be able to seal both. This is combat gauze, it's compression gauze, and it is used to put a ton of pressure on a serious bleeding wound. You want at least one of these, hopefully two of these. This is gauze that is soaked in a hemostatic, a clotting material. It causes blood to clot as it's inserted into the body, and this is very much for inside the body. So if you have something bleeding out really bad, you take this out bit by bit, you tie it in a knot or wad it into a knot, and then pack it into the wound. And when it goes in there, not only does it suck up blood, but the hemostatic agent, the clotting material on it, starts to clot the blood. This is a nasal tube. It's for opening an airway. It's used if the typical airway is blocked, a severe face trauma, something like that, or the person is unresponsive, you don't know what's going on with them. You pull out that lubricant and this tube, and you ram it down their nose into the back of their throat, and that bypasses the tongue, and no matter what happens with them, that airway will be open. So you can turn them on their side or leave them on their back, and they won't suffocate. It's best to put them on their side in an emergency recovery position. Should be on their left side with their knee bent up to keep them from rolling over, and their head resting on their arm. And that way, if they throw up, it just goes out and down. It doesn't go in and cause them to asphyxiate. This is a cheap thermal blanket. It helps keep people's temperatures high, or decreases the loss of temperature. If you need to apply one of these, it's very likely they've lost so much blood that they are going to be anemic, and when you're anemic, as you know, you are cold. These things are worth their weight in gold. Incredibly important. Any type of shock, any type of massive blood loss, super handy to have. All right, going to the other side. This is also compressed gauze. There is a ton of gauze inside here. Pull this stuff out, wad it up, stick it into wounds. You can do that, or you can just use this as an outer gauze. This is another hemostatic agent. It helps blood loss once you have a wound packed, and once right before you're ready to put your outer bandage on, then you can pour this into the wound, put on the outer bandage, and hopefully it'll help. This is nowhere near as good as this that has the hemostatic agent in it, but this is still good to have. Trauma shears, we discussed. Pencil and a pen. You will note that on your tourniquets there will always be a time, and that little tab is super important because you want to know how long you've had that puppy on your extremity. And if you don't have a pen or a pencil, you can't write that down. And this is a harpoon needle. I can't open it up because that'll make it unsterile, but basically there's a 3-inch needle down inside here, and it is, or 3.5 inch. And you take this puppy and you thump it into the chest cavity, the anterior intercostal, I think is where it is. Anyway, between the second and third rib, kind of just adjacent to the heart, under the collarbone, between the shoulder and the heart. And you do this when somebody has a chest wound that has caused their lung to start to collapse, and this tube goes in there, and then you run a piece of tape around it and butterfly that off twice, and that then allows air to escape from that cavity, and therefore allowing the lung to fill back up, and therefore allowing the person to live. Now, all that's pretty serious stuff, right? You're not going to always need this kind of stuff. Most people, their first aid kit's got a Band-Aid in it and some gauze. That's a first aid, that's a comfort kit. This is a life-saving trauma kit, and none of this stuff is expensive. Probably $100 to put this whole thing together. But come time that need arises, this will actually save your life, or the life of a loved one, or the life of a stranger. Yeah, there you go. This kit matters.